morning, everyone. Bill Ulivieri here with Senecal Capital Management. We're here filming another episode of The Final Third. A little bit of background on myself. I am a wealth manager, an insurance long-term care provider. We manage IRAs, 401ks, and just give a second pair of eyes on an investment portfolio, typically for people who are between 55 and 55 plus. I'm a member of the Glenview Chamber of Commerce, currently a board member on the Glenview Chamber, and we're here with Matt Berrafato from Glenview and Karen Kopan from Evanston to talk more about the Final Third and Advanced Medical Directives. So Matt, why don't you introduce yourself?
Again, Matt Berrafato with Elephant Hunting Incorporated. I'm the elephant hunter, and what I do is I help people find their purpose in life, no matter what state you're happen to be in. I have a very big heart for this area I call the final third. That is, when you're in the final third of your life, or you think it's the final third of your life, you know that there's a limited amount of time that you're going to be here. We all know that, at least on this earth, you die. It ends, and when it does, have you done what you're supposed to do with those that you love, or with the ones you love? And so I'm excited about this because the coaching I do is really bringing topics on the table that they don't like to talk about. And it's interesting when they thank you when you're done. When you're doing it, they don't like it because it's very uncomfortable. And so any topic we talk about in the final third is sort of in that category.
Conversations without borders.
Right, and it could be, this one happens to be talking about medical care or physical things that happen, but it's no different than, and we will have episodes on, what do you do when you retire and you've done a good job of taking care of your how much money you need to live on? What are you going to do now? That's a very uncomfortable question for many people that I talk about. And so this is this topic that we're talking about, having Karen here, is about what do you want people to do if I was gone tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And how does that work? So Karen, why don't you introduce yourself, a little bit of what you do?
Sure, thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm Karen Kopan. I'm a critical care nurse practitioner, and I also have business Karen Kopan, Intensive Karen.
Intensive Karen. I like the name.
Intensive Karen.
K-A-R-E-N.
That's correct.
Okay.
Intensive Karen. And it was born one day when I was on my way actually to a co-worker's father passed away, and I was early for the wake, the visitation, and I thought I can't go in early, so I'm going to go have a cup of coffee somewhere. And I found a senior community that was serving breakfast. They had a kitchen and a diner, and I went in and went through their calendar of events, and I thought I could give a talk here and talk with them about what I see in the intensive care unit and how people are not prepared. They don't really know what happens until they see what happens in an ICU or are faced with decisions. And I started talking to small groups of people in the community, and then decided to create a blog and then a business to really start getting the word out about how do you make these difficult decisions. Or if your parents, or if your children, if you are a child of someone who's in their final third, how do you have these conversations and get started to talk about these things?
Right. Well, it's really, so when Bill and I started having our first conversations, and it was in a coffee shop, and this is just an extension of that. And it was really important because it was like, oh my gosh, if I'm in that final third, I'm having this conversation. If you're not, you're thinking about it. Yeah. And when it comes to light, it has every time when you go to someone who passes away, a wake or a funeral. And I always call it, I don't make fun of it, but I have fun with it. I call it COD. You know what COD is, Karen? That's your checkout date.
Okay.
We all have one on this planet. And all kidding aside, that brings everything on the table. So when we were talking about what we're going to talk about this episode, and it's episode 11? 10 or 11, either one. So I asked him, I said, hey guys, have you had the talk yet? And they said, what do you mean the talk? Okay, well, I just had the talk with my 3 girls and my wife. And it was actually the talk of me and my wife having with our 3 girls. And it was, we want to let them know, where is everything? And it doesn't have to be just health. And it was really interesting. They didn't like to talk about it because they're going, we're talking about your guys' demise. Right. And I go, yeah, but what would happen if something happened tomorrow and we didn't say any of this to you? Then you would be struggling, like you'd be watching the mail to see what things do we have in place that until a statement comes, do you even have it? Instead, if you could have all these things in a row, and it was eye-opening to us, because I didn't come with even a piece of, any stuff, and all of a sudden they brought up things. Where I looked at my wife and we said, okay, I'll take a note. That's a good question.
We need to create like a 3-ring binder with different sections.
Exactly.
Because every conversation I had was like one more additional document that you should have to make the whole process go smoothly.
Right.
And again, for the few months that we've been doing this, I still have a bit of a procrastinator. I'm not going to lie to you, but I will tell you this. Before we met, I was getting a sense of my own mortality. I'll be 60 years old this year, and I think I was getting a little bit down on myself. I was getting that midlife crisis, honestly. But now I feel that I've done a little better job with eating and exercising, and just having a more positive tilt, saying, "Hey, I still have a ton of time left, and this is not."
Well, this is the
checkout date. Does not mean
this is the point. Your point is so well taken. When you self-reflect on this, I'm telling you that all of a sudden, it's not something to get depressed. It's not bad news. It's just like, I'm going to realize what's going on. And you know what? I could actually take care of myself, like you said, a little bit better. I could do some other things. And it's like, that's a great way to think.
It's easier for me to have the conversation about this than it is with my younger kids about the birds and the bees, because they were like, blah, 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 blah. But now they don't want to talk about it, but they don't put their fingers in their ears anymore. So Karen, tell us, like some good stories about, people that maybe had the talk and it went well, and maybe we went out for dinner, or it was a weekend retreat, or everybody had a cocktail, a glass of wine, or whatever. Tell us, your perspective of what you see on the talk.
Yeah, I have so much going through my head right now just hearing your stories, because it's not something easy to do, and sometimes it does come up after a wake. Sometimes it comes up after you see a movie. We're like, wow, boy. If that happened to me, you tell your buddy, hey, listen, you don't ever let them do something like that to me.
Right.
And you may say that in passing, but it really has to be well thought out. And, I am very fortunate in that I entered a nursing career right out of college.
Right.
And I am working in a field where people are dying.
Right.
And sometimes it's very sudden and unexpected, and it can be people of all different ages. So I learned as I matured, and over time, I learned how to cope with it. And I think part of the experience, which you're speaking to also, it gives me a stronger sense of appreciating what I have in front of me right now, because I've seen so often someone wakes up in the morning, they go off to work, they never expect, and then are they ever going to make it home to their pillow again?
You never know.
You don't know. And so, I think having these conversations, it's something that we don't do anymore, because death and illness and serious critical illness is something that is in a building somewhere behind a door.
Yeah.
It's not something that we deal with every day. It's so very natural.
Right.
And it can be something that is not, it can be sad, of course, but it can be just, it's a part of life. It's not the end of your life. It's just a part of your life, and talking about it and having some normalcy around it, I think, helps frame the situation. Look, we're not going to focus on this forever. We're just going to sit down and talk about this now.
It's interesting. I'm hearing you say that, and I go, if you look at the normal process of learning, us as human beings learning, the first time you really reach out and try to do something you've never done before, what is it like? It's very uncomfortable.
Right.
If you've never spoken in front of a group of people, and all of a sudden you have to stand up and give a talk.
Or a video.
For the first time.
You're doing great,
Right.
It's interesting, and I learned it actually by taking a Dale Carnegie course. That's where I learned this. And it literally, and this is exactly what we're talking about as far as the kind of learning. And they actually taught you to just go out and just, in essence, if you were playing the piano, you're playing these 10 keys right here. You feel, I'm real comfortable in these, and they say, and then now I'm going to touch this key over here, and you go, oh my gosh, that was so weird that I did that. But the more you do it, all of a sudden and before you know it, you're playing the whole keyboard.
Right.
Well, with what we're talking about, for me, is example with dementia. Until my father-in-law passed away of Alzheimer's in July last year. Because of that experience, I didn't realize I was being prepared. I was being taught all the things I need to know about. about this issue. And I didn't want that, but there was a reason, and I'm not sure the reason. That's not really important, although sometimes it is. It drives you what to do. Well, why is that any different? And then all of a sudden my dad gets dementia. It's like all of a sudden, I'm the power of attorney now, and I had to teach my siblings what's going on with this. Well, this is what you're talking about, the same thing.
Right.
What you experienced as a nurse coming in, you keep that quiet and don't share that with anybody. Well, you're not the cause of other people and hopefully helping other people is going to be deterred because it's not going to happen, right?
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
So this is the same thing, and you teaching me that, oh my gosh, there's these things, vehicles, this umbrella of all these documents we can have that start bringing these on the table. That's what we want to share with everybody.
Well, what's it like when people contact you and they have the talk with you? Like someone contacts you through email or telephone call or maybe through your website, and you set up an appointment. Is it 15 minutes? Is it 60 minutes, 90 minutes? Do you want them to bring, do you have tea and a legal pad? And like, tell us like, what's it like meeting with you?
So what I like to do is get to know a little bit about who I'm working with. So, and that's what I do in the hospital setting as well. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What is important to you? What do you value? What are your experiences with illness, with being sick, or having a close family member that was sick and died? And I want to hear what is valuable and makes you tick, to get a better understanding of what would be a priority to you for a quality of life as you get older, or if you're facing a chronic disease, and kind of have you start thinking then, usually through a questionnaire to be filled out before we really sit and talk. If X, Y, or Z were to happen, what would make you change your focus from treatment to comfort? If these things were, at what point would you think, I don't want to be alive in this state any longer? For me personally, it's like if I can't recognize my family, my friends, if I can't have conversations with you, I really don't want to be around. I don't want to just be alive without having consciousness and interacting with you. And so those kinds of things are I think the conversations that I want to have first. Like what is a good death? What does that mean to you? Where would you want to be if you had a choice of dying? Do you want to be at home? Do you want to be in a hospital? Would you like to be in a hospice facility? And you can't think of being in your house, and maybe the kids are there, and you wouldn't want. Whatever it is that you want, you start thinking about it, and then start going through the process of making decisions and options. And
you said something in between episodes, or maybe it was when we first started, that letting your wishes be known. It's not so easy when you're on a ventilator.
Correct.
Right. So you have full awareness, full cognitive abilities, but you're on a breathing machine because you can't talk, and you might not be able to write because you've got PICC lines or IVs or whatever you call them in your hand. So
that's right.
I can't imagine really what it's like, going through that.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and family members are so conflicted with what they should be doing because they think they know, but if they haven't had the conversations, they don't really know. But even if they have a general idea that they talked about something similar, even though it's not this exact situation, they've had conversations before. They see something in writing. Oh, I forgot, that's right. He did say this. If ever this happened, he would want this. Yes.
We were talking a little bit about our parents. Like my dad, very similar to the conversation you had mentioned, again, off camera. My dad's like, I don't care what you do with my body, just like burn it and spread the ashes in the forest preserve. I'm like, really? You want that? That's really what you want? And originally my parents wanted to donate their bodies to science. And I said, so you want your naked body being passed around to learning hospitals, and then 5 years later, cremated, and I have to deal with this again? No, we're not doing I understand that medical science needs bodies, but I don't think my parents want their stripped and naked formaldehyde swollen body passed around to medical students that, I don't know, for me and my belief system, I know it's important, but that's not like a dignified thing to do with the body. Take all the parts on the inside, but do something a little bit more respectful with the outside. That's just me.
Right. But the thing is, that's you.
But that is
and so what I hear you saying, Karen, is that you're going to be the person that will bring these topics up that the family needs to talk about. Because they won't think about, they may not think about, I should say they will not, may not think about it. And you're just going to bring them on topics, hey, let's discuss it.
Right.
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can we talk about that stuff? Can we talk about like the post-death, like is that part of the Advanced Medical Directive? Like we had an argument, like my dad just wants to be cremated, and I'm like, well, I want your ashes. Oh, how morbid is that? Well, believe it or not, that means something to me. I want to honor your urn and your ashes, and I want to go to, if you're going to be in a cemetery, I want to go there and pray over. I know it's, okay, we can talk about the religious aspect later, but that's important to me, but it's not important to him, and I think that needs to be talked about.
Yes, and that can be discussed with, it's what happens after your death, and what do you want people to know. Where are my passwords for all my accounts? Where are the important
things? Here it comes up again.
Right,
we need a cyber person.
Where are the important papers?
Seriously.
Who's going to be able to access my stuff? Do they even know where it is?
Right.
And I had a similar experience with my dad. He's like, donate it to science, donate my body to science. And my mom, he said, nope.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to do that. He said, if you want someone to do that, you're going to have to name someone else to do that because we're not. No.
Yeah. Right.
No,
so what's interesting, but what's cool is what you just said is, so the person is going to give the direction, like your mom said, and said, well, then it's going to be somebody else. Well, then fine. Then make it somebody else. So, but just because you don't want to do that, if that wish is that person, what's the deal with the final wish then? If you're not going to do it. But that's the idea, is then you give up, I will acquiesce and say, you go ahead and take it. This sibling will take it, or this sibling will take it.
Exactly.
And my mom and dad were very, they're in their mid-80s, so they kind of gave up easy. They don't want confrontation. They just want it done. Where my sister and I are like, no, I want the, we're already wrestling like a couple of cubs about
a couple of bears.
Yeah, so it's really an interesting dynamic that I'm now entering for the first time, and I thought somehow that because we got along so well as a family that this conversation would just go so nice and easy, and I'm telling you, it's one of the hardest things I've been through, and we still have it easy.
So let's review. If you're almost in your final third, Bill's giving you a little bit of heads up. Because you're going to have, I shouldn't say that. If you don't have the talk, then those that are left behind you is a kind of a storm, and it begins with an S, and it's not a fun storm. It's like a S storm that's going to be there, and you got to figure it out. And it's not the time to do it when you're grieving. I shouldn't say it. I wouldn't want to do it while we're grieving. It's not a fun thing.
No, and sometimes, when you're in a room with family members, we don't always have the luxury of time to make these decisions either. And it can be really difficult when people disagree about what they want to do for this family member if conversations weren't had. It can be so distressing, and families get torn and angry, and I think all they want to do is be with this person and be together as a family, and
something's
it's really
preventing
difficult.
that, isn't it?
It's
That's
really
right.
hard.
So the solution is you got to, in advance. That's why you say an advanced directive.
Exactly.
In advance of anything even happening. That's why I know it's hard. It's difficult to even talk about it or think about it. But if you don't, and I guess that's what's happened to us. So we had these conversations, and then last weekend we had a funeral to go to, and a wake in Detroit. And this gentleman passed away of a massive heart attack at age 63. Unexpectedly.
Exactly.
And it's like, all of a sudden, me and Laura looking at each other we're revisiting going, I'm glad that we have had the talk, but what else didn't we cover in the talk? And now we got to make sure we cover that, because what if?
Right.
It's not my parents' friends that are passing away anymore. It's my friends.
Right.
So today here we are at April 12th, 2019. Mm-hmm. I've had 4 or 5 friends, not family members, but friends, pass away. Massive heart attack, unknown, and it's almost real. It's real, and it's happening in my immediate network now, which is kind of freaking me out and giving me this kind of passion to talk about this, because I need to get my house in order. And one way I can best do that is to make you, Matt, and our audience help keep me accountable to the type of things that we need to do, because we're talking about healthcare, which is touchy, and we have to talk about finance. So from my perspective as a wealth manager, do you have your beneficiary forms taken care of? If not, do you have a transfer on death form filled out at your broker dealer? Do you know the difference between a broker and an investment advisor and a fiduciary? What do you want who do I have the right to contact? Because we have our own rules and regulations, very similar to HIPAA. There are some things I can't talk about with a stranger about your account. That's in the agreement. So you need to set that paperwork. Who has the right to sign to draw money in case you can't talk for yourself? Who's going to pay your property taxes?
If your head is spinning right now, imagine how it would spin if all of a sudden you had none of that stuff and someone dies.
Yeah, we got a bill today. How do we pay it? I don't know. Dad took care of the checking account.
That's right.
Oh, exactly. Right. I mean, it could take a year.
Yes.
A year, I imagine.
Oh my gosh. We need to do this massive debrief, Matt, of all these things that we need to check off. And
I'm going to throw a couple other things on there, which I'm sure are in your advanced directives, because I know in that 5 wishes things that you talked about is in here. What about the details? This woman put an example, and I loved it. She said, if it comes to the time when I can't talk, and there's somebody sitting there with, it's time for dessert, and they're going to give me ice cream, I want it to be chocolate. I don't want vanilla. And this person had it in her directive. Yeah. I said, now that is very cool. That's such a minor thing, but it's like, that's the point. If you don't do it in advance, you're going to get vanilla when you didn't want vanilla.
Yeah.
And they're going to go, why are you upset? I remember my grandpa, who he died at 99, but he had a stroke for 15 years, couldn't talk. And this was his deal. That's what he did.
You're going to wake up all the...
Sorry. Okay. But that's what he did, and you're guessing what's wrong with Grandpa, and he would just want to do it, and you go, oh, well, wouldn't it be neat if you knew that you're giving him vanilla and he wanted chocolate?
I mean, some things that come up when I've worked with people, their pets, especially people who aren't married or have children.
What to do with them?
I mean, I worked with someone who their family is not responsible, and they did not want their family to be involved in the decision making, so they had to find someone else. And if you don't have heirs,
wow,
that
I didn't even think about the pet issue.
There are a lot of
So what if you don't have heirs? What if you don't have heirs? Then is there someone who's going to take over that?
Who is it a close neighbor? Is it your brother's daughter that lives out in California? That really should be someone who is nearby and can come and be there to help make these decisions.
Right.
So we're at the end of our 20 minutes. Again, it goes so fast when we're talking about this. So Karen, please tell the viewers how they can get in touch with you, your preferred method of contact, and
Thank you. You can contact me via email, Karen@intensivekaren.com, or my website, www.intensivekaren.com.
Okay. And I'm Matt Berrafato, the Elephant Hunter. An email, matt@elephanthunting.net, best way to get a hold of me. And we want to hear from you. You know what? If we've struck a chord today, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you and like it. And then send it and share it. Bill, how about yourself?
Yeah, Bill Ulivieri, Senecal Capital Management. My phone number is 847-686-4800. Or they can reach out to me at info@senecalcapital.com. And I think if you're on Facebook, there's a little button over here that says Messenger, so send us a message if you have any questions or topics you want to talk about, because this concept of passwords and your digital identity is something we're going to definitely have to address. So thank you for being with us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
See you next time.